You got the best gear and you're still waking up wrecked. Here's why. You can spend hundreds of dollars on top tier sleep gear and still wake up cold, cramped, and sliding off your pad. After over 300 nights in the backcountry, whether it's a weekend in a state park or a 10,000-foot trek, I've learned most of that misery comes down to just 5 mistakes. In this video, I'll show you what they are and quick fixes that can turn a sleepless night into your best rest on trail. And by the way, if you're into real world backpacking results, we just tested 4 backpacking pillows head to head in the field. And if you want to check that out after this one, the link's below. And don't forget to subscribe, guys. I put out backpacking videos every week. So a lot of people blame their sleeping bag when they end up cold at night on a trip, but a lot of the time it's actually the sleep pad. If your pad doesn't have enough insulation measured as R value, the ground just pulls that heat right out of you. Here's a quick breakdown. With an R value below 2, you'll feel pretty chilled on anything but the warmest summer nights. Around 3 to 4 works for most 3-season trips, and 5 or higher is what you want if you're pushing into winter, the high alpine, or camping in snow. I've made this mistake myself more than once, and it's miserable. You end up piling on clothes and still waking up cold because that ground just keeps stealing all your heat. The simple fix is to check the R value of your pad before your trip against the temperature range that you're expecting. And if you're stuck with a low rated pad, you can add a thin foam pad underneath. Just a few extra R points can turn a sleepless night into a decent one, because your pad is the foundation for comfort at night. Everything else just builds on it. And I'll drop a few of my go-to sleep pads down in the description, including a couple 3-season options that hit that perfect R value sweet spot. So in addition to your pad's warmth rating, the type of pad you use can set the tone for the entire night. Foam pads are simple, reliable, and can't leak, which is why a lot of long-distance hikers rely on them. But they're bulky, and unless you sleep on really smooth and flat surfaces, you're gonna feel every bump underneath. And if you're a side sleeper, these things can be really unforgiving on the hips and shoulders. Inflatable pads solve that problem with way more cushion and a smaller pack-down size. But they come with one big variable that not everyone realizes has a big impact on sleep quality: how much you inflate them. If you blow up an inflatable pad to be rock hard, you'll still create pressure points at your hips and shoulders. Leave it too soft and you start to lose some of that cushy comfort along with a bit of R value. Both situations can lead to tossing and turning or waking up sore. The sweet spot that I've found is just enough air so that your hips barely float above the ground when you're lying on your side. That balance helps to keep your spine neutral and actually lets you rest. And if you've ever woken up sore, even on a comfortable pad, it's almost always the inflation balance. Dial that in once and you'll feel the difference immediately. Shoulder and back pain on trail isn't always about carrying a heavy pack. It can also be caused by the way you sleep. If your pillow's too tall, your head gets tilted forward all night. And if it's too low, your head drops back, so your spine's kind of twisted. Either way, you wake up with a stiff neck and you feel it the next day on trail. The fix is dialing in the height and position of your pillow. For inflatable pillows, similar to the sleep pad, don't inflate them all the way. Let out some air until your head lines up with your spine. And if that doesn't give your head enough support, or you just feel like your head's a little too low, try to tuck some clothing under the pillow to lift it up instead of inflating it more. And if you're using a non-inflatable pillow, experiment with where it sits under your shoulders, not just your head. It's amazing how much difference just a 1-inch adjustment can make. Get your pillow height right, and suddenly you're not fighting your sleep system all night. You just fall asleep naturally. Miss it by a bit and you'll wake up sore before you even packed up camp. And if you're looking for a good starting point for a backpacking pillow, I'll link a few of the ones I've used in the field and are some of the most popular models used by backpackers. One of the most frustrating ways to lose sleep in the backcountry is picking a site for your tent that isn't flat. Even a small slope can feel just fine when you first lie down, but after an hour, you can find yourself sliding into the corner of that tent and waking up with your feet smashed into the wall of your tent and your head a foot and a half away from the other side is something that just about every backpacker has experienced at some point. When I was a beginner, I just eyeballed the flatness of my tent site. The problem was I wasn't very good at it. What looked flat in daylight would often result in that dreaded slide by midnight. Now, some folks will do the water bottle test. You can place a full bottle of water on the ground to see if it rolls, or even better, just look at the air bubble and see what direction it's pointing in and by how much. But my go-to method for picking a flat campsite is even more dialed. I'll toss my ground sheet on the ground, put my sleep pad on top of it, and then use my phone's angle measuring tool to check the exact flatness. I'll move it around until it's at least 3 degrees or lower. I use my iPhone's Measure app, or you can use the Bubble Level app for Android. Once you've found that sweet spot, then you can pitch your tent in confidence, knowing that you'll have a flat place to sleep. So I used to swing between two pretty bad extremes when it comes to clothing at night. I either sleep like I was at home with just maybe a t-shirt and shorts, trusting my sleeping bag to keep me warm, or once I got cold, I just throw on every layer I had, including sometimes even my rain jacket. The problem is, if you try to fix cold nights by just piling on every layer you have, it feels good for the first few minutes, but eventually your body will start to sweat. That moisture builds up, and by 2 in the morning, well, now you're clammy and chilled. So the goal isn't more layers, it's the right layers. In colder seasons, wear insulated, moisture-wicking base layers. Keep your head and feet warm with maybe a light beanie and some warm, dry socks. And if it's pushing near freezing, toss on a single lofted piece like a puffy or a vest, but skip the rain gear unless it's your absolute last result, because non-breathable fabrics trap moisture, and once you're sweating inside your bag, you're kinda already losing the battle. These days, I treat my sleeping gear like a complete system. The pad insulates me from the ground, the bag holds that heat in, and my clothing just fine-tunes everything. Once those pieces are all working together, you'll stop fighting temperature swings and finally get the kind of steady, warm sleep that makes long miles feel easy. So let's run it back real quick. Get the right R value pad, dial in your pad inflation, make sure your pillow height actually fits your neck, pitch your tent on flat ground, and layer smart. If you get those 5 right, your odds of a good night's sleep go way up. And while we've been mainly focusing on insulation and warmth out there, bringing a backpacking pillow is also one of those luxuries that can really improve your sleep quality. If you've ever woken up with a stiff neck or just felt like your pillow wasn't cutting it, this next video is gonna save you a ton of trial and error. I recently tested 4 of the most popular backpacking pillows from super budget to super premium to see how they impacted my sleep quality. And if you want to see the results of that test, the video's right here. So thanks for watching, sleep smart out there, and I'll see you on the trail.